is the Herdline News.
Sorry if that felt personal, Joey, you being from Pittsburgh and all.
Rough year in Pittsburgh. You're right. You got to keep it real. So Tom Brady completely turned around the Bucs organization in just one season with the team. He brought decades of knowledge and experience, and Chris Godwin said the most important thing that Brady did was change the mindset in the locker room.
I think the biggest thing that he brought was just the mentality of expecting to win over kind of hoping to win, right? Like we've had a bunch of talented guys, for years, but could never really put it together. And so, like just the history of the team kind of creeps into your mind. You go into games like, as a competitor, you're like, yeah, we can win this. But like, you're really just kind of hoping to win. But this year, we approach every single game like we damn sure can win this game. Like there's no reason why we couldn't.
That's always, when I covered Tampa, they never lacked talent. I covered them for 2 years. I always thought they were above mid, and when they weren't good, I was always like, they're a top 12 team talent-wise. And with this new regime, they've drafted incredibly well for the last 4 to 5 years.
Yeah, most of the time, this like mindset stuff, I think, is not really that much of a percentage of the difference between winning and losing. But when you talk about Tampa Bay, to your point, they're an extremely talented team. I mean, even Jameis Winston, we say all the time, is extremely talented. He's just also throws the same amount of touchdowns as he does interceptions, which doesn't work.
Yeah. So
having someone like Tom Brady come in with the experience that he does and set a standard and set an expectation, I think when you have that much talent, the mindset then does play a major role in the outcome. Like we heard the stories of him texting all of his teammates the night before the Super Bowl, like, we're going to win. There is something to an affirmation of, to his point, kind of hoping we'll win. Like, yeah, maybe we can pull this off. We've got enough talent. We got enough guys. And then going in knowing that you're capable of doing it.
They won close early. They won by a touchdown midseason. They won by blowout late. It was the same players. It's like the Tony Robbins thing, the motivational guy. He's not giving you a law degree or a doctorate. He's not making you a doctor, right? He's not making you more successful. What he's taking is you and saying, there's some power within you that you're just simply not using. Let me extract it, let you see it, and hopefully it motivates you. That's powerful. That's why people go watch Joel Osteen in Houston it's not like what he's taking is, you're better than you're achieving. Let me pull it out, show it to you. And Tom, I think, said, guys, you're really, really good. Let me pull more out of you, let you see it. And if you watch their season, they won close early by a touchdown midseason, and they started blowing people out late. It's the same playbook.
Well, confidence is a funny thing like that, because we kind of shun people that are too confident.
Right.
But that's because most people aren't confident. So confidence is kind of scary. I mean, really what Tom Brady did in continuing to play when everyone expected him to just retire in his old age, going to Tampa Bay, leaving a dynasty. I mean, he took a risk on his legacy. We didn't know how this was going to turn out.
Right.
He could have looked crazy, but he knew what he was capable of, and he brought that energy to the team. Because of that, they also have a lot of free agents, obviously, and Chris Godwin is one of them, and he said he's not going to put himself in a situation where he's going to be miserable for some years just for a few extra dollars. So he actually wants to stay. I'm very interested to see how many pay cuts are voluntary in this situation to stay in Tampa Bay now with Tom Brady after last year.
It is interesting about this, and I'm not a big fan of guys taking pay cuts, but you do have to consider some stuff. Tampa is one of the cheapest big cities in America to live in. There's no state tax. Again, $1 million gets you a big house and a golf course.
Yeah, there's no state tax, and Tampa is different than living in Miami with no state tax.
Right, like it's cheaper.
The cost of living is way
down. So it's a quality of life thing. It's a very easy place to play. The media doesn't have sharpened tools. When I lived there, I remember thinking I had lived in a much smaller market, Vegas, and I moved to Tampa, and I'm like, man, this town shuts down at 7:45 a.m. Like there's nothing going on. So for a lot of players, it's a very comfortable place to coach and live, and there's value in that. This is not Philadelphia, where you have a bad day, you drive home, turn the radio on, and the city's attacking you. That's not... There are cities in this country, I think Aaron Rodgers, there's Green Bay has a feel like it's just a simpler, easier life. I can go date celebrities somewhere else, but there are places in the NFL and in pro sports to play where it's easy, and Tampa's an easy place to play.
And if you're thinking long term, and quality of life matters when you're talking about driving, as you say all the time. So it's a rough life driving to the facility every day, as Jay Glazer says, knowing that you're going to lose.
That's right.
So Luka Doncic's late heroics lifted Dallas over Boston last night. This was a fun game.
Good game.
He hit the go-ahead three with 15 seconds left, and after Jaylen Brown tied with 9 seconds to go, Luka drains another three in the last second to give the Mavs the 110-107 win. While this was really fun to watch, the bigger story here to me is once again Boston. I've been off Boston for a couple years now, but I mean, they just had an overtime loss in New Orleans. They blew a 24-point lead in the second half.
They have to play a certain way to win, which is usually a recipe for good, not great. They're there are teams where you're like Baltimore with Lamar Jackson. There's a way they play to win. Tennessee with Derrick Henry and Tannehill. Tennessee plays this way and wins. Kansas City's like, nothing of that went right, and they can still win almost every game. And I think Boston has to play, and I think they're like the Warriors were a classic example. I mean, they could just make turnovers. And they just kind of found a way to win. Boston has to play within Brad Stevens' system because late in games, other teams have more quality players. And by the way, they also, again last night, they're not big. They struggle to defend size.
I don't love systems in the NBA. I think systems work in college. I think systems can work in the NFL to some degree, but this is a star-driven league, and there's too many dynamic players now. There's too many big players that can play like they're small and hit threes, and you just have to be more dynamic than that. Systems sound good when you first install systems and discipline. It's very Boston, but it's not resulting in what the expectations were for the Celtics. So the NBA announced the All-Star reserves yesterday as selected by the league's coaches. In the West, Damian Lillard, Chris Paul, Anthony Davis, Rudy Gobert, Zion Williamson, Donovan Mitchell, and Paul George were chosen. Boom. James Harden, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Julius Randle, Nikola Vucevic, and Ben Simmons and Zach LaVine will represent the East.
Can we stop bellyaching about Devin Booker? Listen, he's a great talent, but the West is so absurdly rich at guard. It's insane. I mean, the West is...
It's tough. It's tough. I mean, I feel everyone's frustration. LeBron was talking about it. CJ McCollum was talking about it.
They didn't win any games until Chris Paul got there.
Chris Paul has been the difference maker. You have to give him the credit. But Booker is just so, he feels like the All-Star.
Okay, but it's like this. If I said Derek Carr is the third best quarterback in the AFC West, you'd be, ooh, hater. Yeah, but it's Mahomes and Justin Herbert. So the third best quarterback in the AFC West is arguably easily the best quarterback in 3 other divisions. Being the last guy to get cut at guard in the West is you'd probably start for the East.
Well, yeah, I mean, the problem is, who are you going to take out, right? If somebody's been snubbed, and you have to swap them with someone.
Would it be Paul George or, he's a forward, but...
Yeah, I mean, Chris Paul obviously is going to be the one.
There's no way I'm taking Chris Paul. He's a Hall of Famer.
He said that it's bittersweet. It's bittersweet to get it because obviously it's a great honor. But yeah, I mean, look, like I said, Booker feels like the All-Star. He's the star on the team. Yeah. He plays like one. So I get it. But yeah, with these conversations, you have to take somebody out.
Joy, as long as you or I are on the air, there's a lot of broadcasters not going to make the All-Star team either. Well, Dem to breaks. Joy with the news.